Best of r/Tales from Tech Support episode 33. Please forgive the formatting. Still new to posting on a tablet. I was working at a cable company doing internet connection support. Me, your humble help desk tech user, a dear-old grandmother in tears. Me, call opening blah blah blah. User, can you please help me? You're my last hope. Me, I'll do my best. What seems to be the problem? User, I have to send my computer in for repair, and they said that they would wipe the hard drive. It has pictures of my grandson on it. He was a Marine who was killed by an IED in Iraq. Me, not caring as I get written up for going out of our scope. Yes, mom, I'd be honored too. 10 minutes later, I had remoted into her machine, copied the files, put them on a blank USB drive I had on me, and promised to mail it to her. User, thank you so very much. Me, semper fi, mom. 5 minutes later, my supervisor comes over to me with tears in her eyes, thanking me. I got a nice bonus for that. Thank you. Next. Hi folks, I've got a Yifu TFTS tale that includes a new router. Of course, on Christmas Eve, I showed up to the site at around 10 AM, new router in hand. I spent a lot of the night before configuring it and I was destined to walk out with a nice network with real VLANs. You know, the dream. After getting down some MAC addresses for static IP assignments, damn printers, I got to work. Unplugged the old, non-VLAN compatible router, no one else was there and they have 2 data circuits, and plugged in the new fancy router. Mind you, this was around 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Everything powered on with no sparks or smoke, which is always a good sign. I connected all the interfaces, and could ping from the router outside, but not from the switch or any PCS on it. This freaked me out a little. So I started research, looked around for a while on the internet, but found nothing wrong with my router config that I could see. I did that until about 6:30 PM. Yeah, before I said FSCK it and posted my router config to Stack Exchange Network Engineering and a final cry for help. When someone responded about 1 minute later with where's your NAT for your VLANs? And I saw my mistake. No NAT routes at all. However, it was late and I didn't feel like messing with all of that, plus I still had gifts to wrap. So I plugged in the old router and thank God everything got the right IP address. Then I headed home and repeatedly hit myself in the head with a keyboard. God, I hate myself. Thank you. Next. I did an oopsie. I'm part of a small IT support company, about 10 people staff, that supports small to medium businesses. One of these is a dentist with a software package that needs its database converted. The supplier, thank God, has made a straightforward installer for this. My job is to back up the current database and software, copy-paste the folder, and run the installer after work hours since no one can as much as look at the software while its database is being converted. Cue holiday season. First time, before the holidays, the conversion failed with some very nondescript error. Backup was restored and all I did was waste about 1 or 2 hours of my time. Just before Christmas I got a new installer from the supplier which should have fixed the issue. I think to myself, to save me some more evening overtime I might be able to do it while everyone went home early for the holidays. Run the backup, run the installer, and head home while it converts, and check if it ran successful by the time I get home. Halfway through the backup the VM that ran the database suddenly goes offline. Everything else is still reachable so I connect to the hypervisor. The VM has been stopped due to a disk error. Apparently the storage disk that held the data partitions had reached its limit due to my 10 GB backup. Damn, the person that gave the virtual storage disks way more space than the physical disks it was assigned to. No way to clean up files since it's only the VHD files on there and compression doesn't do squat. Can't boot the VM to clean up previous backups because it gets suspended immediately. What saved me was the fact that there was enough space on the hypervisor C drive to host one of the VHD files from the clogged disk. Eventually the servers were up again, but what was supposed to be a bit of time saved and early leave turned into overtime on Christmas Eve. To hell with the conversion, I thought. I'm going home. Lesson learned. Don't touch anything sensitive before the holidays. Thank you. Next. A ticket came in last week for the president of our division. His Skype wasn't working correctly when the application launched. it would sign him in, but the application window was completely white. He could IM with people they messaged first, but none of the buttons loaded, nor did his contact list. The problem began the weekend before. He's running Windows 7. It sounded like an easy enough fix. Just reinstall Skype and hope that whatever update booked his machine doesn't reinstall before I can get him over to Windows 10. Should be a quick, easy fix, right? Oh, you poor noob. I wouldn't be sharing the story if it were easy. So, I sat down at his machine and instantly noticed he was getting a temporary profile. Might as well fix that first. After all, it could be the root cause of what's screwing up his Skype. Log in as admin and make the required changes to fix his profile. Reboot, log back in and find the profile issue is now resolved but Skype isn't working correctly. Still, crap. Go to reinstall Skype and notice he's only got 15 gigabytes worth of free space. Crap. Normally, I'd copy the data from the old profile to the new one, but there wasn't enough free space. Had to do a move instead. It's not the way I like to do things, but you do what you have to do sometimes. After the data was moved, I reinstalled Skype and went back to my desk. As soon as I sat down, the phone rang. He said he couldn't find his data. It was all gone. Aha. Someone must have been looking at their recent files and couldn't find something, right? Connect an over Skype to show him where his files are. Son of a bitch. He's right. His data's nowhere to be found. Did I delete it by mistake? There's nothing in the recycle bin. Free space didn't increase. In fact, there's less now than before. It has to be there. Install Windows Stat. That should help me find it. Everything looked as it should. Massive app data folders, though, I didn't even ouch those. Keep looking. Where the hell could it be? Call the server guy. He should be able to restore a backup. Our document folders are redirected to a file server and backups are automatic. I'm granted access to his shares. Nothing after 2017 in 2 different directories. WTF. Server dude comes back and tells me that this guy has a notoriously robust archive and it would cause their 2003 servers to choke up so badly that they disabled the automatic backup on this guy's machine. Whatever is backed up is whatever he chose to back up. What? Why would you do that? Why would you put that responsibility on the user? Rule number 1 in tech support is never trust the user. I'm told that this president insisted it be turned off when he felt the server sync was impacting the speed of his machine. What? You let a user dictate how IT should operate? WTF kind of crackerjack operation am I working for? The user, regardless of rank, never dictates policy to IT. What's the point in having these policies in place if they're just going to be ignored? In all my years of doing tech support, I have never been responsible for end user data on a fat client. That's why we have folder redirection. That's why we're moving to a cloud backup solution. Okay, plan. Where am I now? G, ZH, whatever. The executive is pissed and my manager is having a meltdown. Start searching file types. I found the data. I couldn't find the folder structure, but I found the files. Well, many of them, anyway. Everything was hidden deep in the app data folders of the bad profiles. Send someone else to the store for a USB external drive while I start sorting the data. 90 gigabytes worth of data recovered in app data folders. Documents, spreadsheets, PDFs, pictures, movie files, etc. Copied all the data off the machine, removed the bad profiles and junk files, put the data back on the machine and gave the user back the USB drive that contained everything I purged from his machine. Told the boss that when it comes time to move this user over to W10, he can do it. Close to 15 years in support and I've never lost a user's data before. It took part of 3 days to get everything situated and get the president to sign off that he was satisfied with my efforts. I've already given my boss an earful and I'll do it when he gets back from his vacation. Thank you. Next. I love those calls where you are pretty deep down the troubleshooting rabbit hole, and nothing is working that should be working. And the customer makes an "oh, by the way" statement, usually after an hour or days, that alters the course of existence. We were working with a guy yesterday who lost access to thousands of files after renaming his drive. We verified how he altered his drive name, and it sounded like he used the proper procedure. Some people had him change his drive name back. No dice. Some people had him alter the registry. Cannot access the file. I was going to find out all of the current sim links to see if they were pointing to a location that we could still access. The next day, the customer replies, "That sounds good. Oh, by the way, after I renamed the drive, I took the drive out of the computer for safekeeping. Do you think that could have something to do with it?" Bangs head on desk. Thank you. Next. Long time lurker. First time poster. Also, English is not my mother's tongue, so excuse me for any typos. So this short but funny story happened to a colleague of mine while I was on job training at a major shipping company a few years ago here in Germany. From then on I didn't encounter anything more hilarious until now. I happened to be in the second level support where mostly client related issues were dealt with. One day my colleague received a call from a branch which was the closest branch to the IT department. The calling woman stated that she received a new monitor and asked my colleague nicely if he could transfer the data from the old one. My colleague asked nicely if it really was the monitor or if it was the computer itself. There were like 3-4 of our colleagues with us, and as they heard what the called colleague was dealing with, everybody went to tears from laughing. You could clearly see the stress on the colleague who was still on the phone. He had to fight his own urge to break out in loud and wild laughing whilst telling the calling college that the IT prepared everything and she had just to exchange the monitor and all would be set up for her. She went like, "Oh, I didn't know that you can do this," and thanked my colleague pleasantly. I find this story till today the only one which brings the most joy to me and others hearing it, and it would be heard on the hallway for next months after it occurred. Thank you. Next. Me. Okay, but pretty sure I did that already. Giving benefit of the doubt. Hey, it's the holidays. User. No, it's not hooked up. Me. Looking at my notes, I installed this printer 4 months ago. User. No, sorry, it's not working. Experience proves that trying to phone troubleshoot anything with this particular user is pointless. Sigh. So I drive over to the remote office. 20 minutes. Printer has obviously been dropped. Glass is cracked. Input panel smashed. Me. Why didn't you tell me the printer was damaged? User. So, you can't fix it? Can you go get another one? I need it today. Me. Go to the UPS store. I left. Merry Christmas.